Hi, it's Neil from Mighty Little Green Machine. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be permanently mounting the backup camera that I installed. If you watched the previous video where I actually put it on, I had set this up temporarily and I wanted to try it, and I couldn't be happier with the proof of concept. It works really, really well, but the location is just doesn't work because basically you're just kind of staring at the piston, uh, the top link, when it's up in the air. So I think I have a plan to mount it up there and have it shine down. But we're going to get this thing mounted permanently so that we can see better. It works well for backing up, picking up the trailer, stuff like that. It's hard to see around the quick hitch and stuff on the back. It's the monitor, even though it's not waterproof, has gotten wet a couple of times and it still works. I don't know what's going to happen long term. We'll see. Maybe they make a weatherproof one. I just hadn't thought of that when I bought it originally. I'll put a link down below to the camera itself. And I got this system, if you remember, because I can add a second camera on the front, which I'm going to do at some point. I really want to figure out where to mount one so that I can see the edge of the bucket, the tip of the forks, that kind of stuff when I'm working out front, instead of trying to stand up and hold the pressure on the seat so the thing doesn't stall. So today we'll get this installed, wired, and done. I'm going to show you a better place to draw power off the tractor that one of you showed me. So let's get started. Okay, so here's what I did. I took, this was straight out, and I folded it over on itself and made it so I can mount it this way. And then I have a hole in this bracket that I'm going to bolt this through. Now, odds of you having the same light bracket as me are pretty slim. If you don't have these light brackets, you could probably double-side tape this thing when it's flat right up here. But what we're going to find out is this a good spot to mount it in so that we can see what we want to see. So let's go ahead and get this bolted in. And I'm going to leave it. Right now I just want to put it up and see if I can get the angle. I don't even know yet if I can or not. They do make cameras with magnet mounts, but I know that I'll lose it. That looks like it might be a pretty good angle. Show you. You can see it up there. So I'm going to see if I can do a temporary wire to double check to make sure it's what I want. And then once we know, I'll show you how I'm going to run the wires inside the ROPS. Okay, so I was able to stretch the cord up there. You can see the camera. And I'll show you what the view looks like. I think it's hard to see in the sun, but I think that'll work out well. I can kind of see everything back there. I don't know how the perception's going to be for lining it up, but I won't know that till I try it. But at least now I can see everything going on behind me. So I think we're going to leave it there, and I'm going to tighten it up and then run some wires. Okay, so what I've done is run a coat hanger down the ROPS. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's just long enough to get through it. And then, and I started it up here. I've been at this for like an hour. It's been kicking my butt. I wanted to run it down the right side, which is where all my wires are, but that's what the problem was. I couldn't be able to find the coat hanger with all the wires. So now I've got this end here. I'm going to go ahead and this is going to be tight, so I'm going to go ahead and put some tape on the hanger and then pull that wire through. So let me put you back on the stand. So it's already pretty tight in this hole. So I'm not going to be able to use much tape. I don't know how this is going to work yet. But I guess we'll find out. Okay. Pull that back up. Pull that back out some so we got some room. Oh. I'm going to go right past the wire so that the wire's not getting caught. That's going to be about what we're going to do. I am not very optimistic. I'm not going to lie. Let's see if I can reach this. Okay. Don't want to lose this before I even get it in the hole. Try and do this. I have to add to this wire anyway, so if I damage the end of it, not the end of the world. I don't think the wire went with it, and it did not. Okay, well, you know what? I was able to feed this earlier. Let's see if I can feed it down on the other side since there's no wire in there. I think I just made the corner. Hopefully that wire is going to come out of there. We'll see. Let's see what it looks like. Can't see. Still can't see. I have no idea where that wire is. It must just be bunching up inside there. Okay. Well. Okay, so I ended up drilling a small hole in the top of the ROPS. And I got the wire down through. Now, the hole's not going to cause any structural problems. I mean, I don't like putting holes in the ROPS, but the strength is not in the middle there, so I'm not worried about it. And then this wire's not long enough, so what I've done is I've gone ahead and used some of those solderless connectors or heat solders. I don't remember what you call them actually, but you just warm them up and they solder the thing. And then I've got a piece of heat shrink tube that I'm going to put over that. And then I'll snake those down through the bottom part of the ROPS, and then we'll come back to how I'm going to wire it. Okay, so I've taken my two wires, what's going to be the positive and the ground, that run from the camera. They're now run down inside this ROPS. Down below, they come up, and then they're run across. I decided to put the switch in the switch box. And I've actually put my sheathing on it like I like to do, so it's protected. And now I've got the cover, the fender cover off the top of the fender, and I'm just checking wires. I found out that this one's ignition switched, so that's what's going to go to the camera. And then I'm going to take the other lights. I'm going to rewire now to ignition switch. Where are they? Right in here. Those are my lights up here. They're right now wired to the headlight switch when you turn it all the way on. I'm going to rewire those to the ignition so I can use them without the rest of the headlights when I want, because I don't always need them all, and do that. And then, but I'm going to take their lighted switches. I'm going to hook the lighted switches, the lighted part of them, to that ignition switch. I mean, to that headlight switch, because I don't need them unless the headlights are on to light them up. And then we'll tie all that together. I'm going to show you how to wire that switch. I had somebody ask me about that. And unfortunately, when I originally put these in, I had no sound in the video. So that's where we're at. I also want to show you, and I have not found this yet on the 1025, but one of you pointed out to me that right here is actually a power, like a bus bar type of thing. And these are labeled. This one's switched 12, that one's ground, and then there's power. And I can put the studs right on there, so I can actually attach to that. So I didn't need, on this tractor, to tap into my fuse box for the ignition source. So I think I'm going to pull it all out of the fuse box, get rid of the fuse tap, because I'm not a big fan anyway, and then tie it all right into there. And get that so it's all working. Okay, so switches will vary a little, but this is a lighted switch. Okay, this is what I'm going to use for the camera. This one says rear view camera. But when you have a lighted switch, you have two different power inlets. Okay, you have one that runs the actual backlighting in the switch, and you have one that runs the power in to you, whatever your accessory is going to be going out. You can wire these a couple of different ways. You can wire it so that you either have ignition power and or battery power going for your accessory, and then you could even tie it into your headlight switch or something else for the lighted switch, so the light switch isn't on all the time. I don't want to get into my wiring harness for my headlights, so I'm going to just run both of these off of switched ignition, which means that when the key is off, they'll be off. There'll be no power drain. And when the key is on, it will turn it on. Now, the reason that I'm putting this switch in for the backup camera is, it's actually not for the camera, it's for the monitor. What I found out is that that monitor can take getting wet, but it doesn't like being on when it's getting wet. So I want to be able to shut the monitor off if I'm out in the rain or the snow. So that's what this switch is going to do. But I'm going to end up running one switched power in, and that's going to this came with the switch, piggyback over, so it's going to run the backlit, and it's also going to run the accessory. That means when the key is off, nothing will run. Okay? Then this is your ground here, and there's actually two grounds as well, because one for your accessory and one for the backlit switch. But that comes into a pigtail at all that came with this switch. And I'll put links to these things in the comments for you if you want to get something like this. So then, let me show you where we've got for wires right now. Okay, if you can see, I ran my wires in beside that harness through the grommet, down inside this compartment. And then I have them sticking out of, I'll make that better for you. I have them sticking out of where the switch is going to go. This is where your mower up and down switch would go for the electric. I'm not putting a mower on this, so this switch will actually pop right in here and look like it was factory. And then what I've got here is the ground wire coming from the monitor, plus a ground that's going to connect to the tractor, and I'm tying those together, and then that's going to connect to the negative side of the switch. And then I've got the power side for the monitor hooked to that separate pigtail that's going to go on the switch on the accessory out, and then I'm going to run a third wire, which will be the actual switched power, and you'd run 4 if you were going to do 2 different types of power to the switch, but a third wire, and then that's going to connect to the other pigtail, and then I'll just connect these 3 wires and the switch will be ready to go, and then I'll pop it in. So let me get a red wire run, and then I'll show you how we're going to tie all this together. Okay, so now I have 3 wires. So this is going to be my power, switched power, obviously my ground for the switch, and the ground for the screen, power for the screen, and that will cover everything we need to cover. I have these wires just loose right now, and I actually have the roll of wire still connected because I don't know how much I'm going to need. And this is the place where I can actually wait and cut it, so I don't want a lot of wire flopping around. I don't have to zip tie a lot of wire, so this is a good place for that. You can't always do that, but in this case it's going to work out well. So what I am going to do is I'm going to put a weatherproof female spade on this, which will plug into the ground. Actually, I changed my mind on that. I'm going to go ahead and cut this spade off, and I'm going to use a soldered butt joint for this. I can always unplug it off the switch if I need to, but I think that's going to be, what did I do with my cutters? I think that's going to be the safest, most, the way it's not going to come off the most. Okay. I'm going to grab, I love these little connectors. And what happens, because the solder gets on the wires and they're touching, it holds it all together no matter what. Then you heat shrink it. So all I do is throw first wire in, and second wire in. Try and get them in as far as you can. You want as much solder on these as you can. Okay, I have them all the way through on both sides. In this case, I'm just going to use my lighter, which works fine, but little torch, or actually what's the best is a heat gun. I just don't feel like running an extension cord. And I'm going to warm that solder ring until I see the solder flow into the wires. There it goes. And then I'm going to warm up both sides and just shrink it to the wires. And that's it. Well, cool. Then on our power wire, we'll put a heat shrink female spade. Those. I think I mentioned this earlier in the video. I'm not sure, but best thing, well, a really great thing that I ended up doing was putting all of this wiring stuff in one bucket. There's a video on it if I kind of go through what I keep on hand. And I've added a few things because I see things I like better, but it's just so quick because I just go grab that bucket. I'm not looking in 20 places for what I need. I'll be honest, half the time at my projects, that's what takes me the longest, is finding what I need to do the job. We'll let that cool for a minute. Then we'll plug all this in, and I'll pop the switch in, and I'll show you what it looks like. Then I'll neaten the wires up in here and tie them off. And then we'll connect the power underneath, which I'm also going to tie into the power going back to the switch power going back to the switches back there, because I took it out of the fuse boxes I showed you I was going to do. I'm going to put it on a grommet instead with an inline fuse. It's fit better on my 2025, but when I had that set up on my 1025, I sometimes had connection problems with my fuse, the fuse tap, and since it's the ignition fuse you're using. So I like this idea. I didn't know that was there. Now, I'm working on a 1025 at the same time. I have not doing different projects, but I have not yet found that same setup on the 1025, but I'll let you know if I can find it. Okay, you can see how nice that switch looks now, and that'll light up all the time. I really wanted to do it off the headlights, so when I turned the headlights on, it lit up, but like I said, it's just a tractor, and I don't want to get into that headlight harness. And the wires are run all the way in and back out over here now. So now I'll neaten this up and make my connection to ground and to power. And this project will be done and we can test it. I'm going to do is finish taking this nut off. Lost the key. There we go. Try and keep it in the socket this time. Okay, let's see how I did. Well, we kept it that time. That's good. Now, I already have a heat shrink ring thermal on the ground. I'm just going to run that down. Set it on. I can't see. Set it on. Not this other one is battery. So you've got 12-volt switch, battery, and ground. I almost think it's easier from that side to do this one. Took me a little while to find the right combination of socket and extension to fit in here. Really wouldn't be that big of a deal if it wasn't for the... Okay, hold on. I don't know if this is started or not. I'm afraid to pull it. I think it's started. Well, I don't know if it started. It's not started, and the nut's not in here. So that's not good, because this is a tiny, tiny little nut. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, everything is connected. The only thing that I want to warn you about that just happened to me is I did snap one of the studs off that distribution block under the hood. The negative one, it broke. I shouldn't have used even the 1/4-inch battery ratchet. Was too much. So I've connected the ground so we can try it. So we're going to turn the key on and see how we did. Okay. The switch lit up. Now let's see when we throw it on. Okay, the power works. Now let's see if the camera comes on. And there's the camera. I'm going to have to do some adjustments to it, but I'm pretty happy with that. So let's come over. This is where it ended up top there. And I'll adjust it a little better so I can see, but I want to wait till I get the quick hitch on it. Then let's come over and see. Okay, my switches are lighting up in the back here. I don't know why it's not focusing. Now if I turn on the rear lights, that's working. And the front lights, and that's working. So my extra lights and my camera are now on switched power, which is perfect. So I can use the work lights independently now of my headlights. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some ideas. I am going to add a front camera to this soon. I don't know where I'm going to put it yet, although I do have more mounting options now that I put a grill guard on it. So I might mount it inside there, but we'll see. I'm going to get that ordered up eventually. I'm not putting the tractor back together yet because I still got a whole pile of other things that I'm doing that you will see in videos. I thank you for taking the time to watch. I appreciate you sponsoring and helping out with the channel. And I'll see you next time on Mighty Little Green Machine.